I'll just give you a minute to read that. I didn't know they were going to put all of that on there. And I didn't know I was going to be speaking here today until yesterday when I was asked by the sound delivery team if I'd like to address this amazing room of people. And I jumped at the chance and said, yes, I would. Because I have utmost respect for all of you for being here, for all of what you do, day in, day out. Lived experience is so important. So what I'm going to do today is talk to you about my life story. No singing, no poetry, nothing like that. I'm just going to talk to you about the reality of where I'm coming from. And the first thing I'm going to do is give away my age, because it is quite important. So I was born a few days after Martin Luther King was assassinated, and a few days before Enoch Powell's infamous Rivers of Blood speech. Anyone remember the year? Absolutely. But I look good, don't I? Yeah, all right. So I was born at a time when racism was rife in Britain. And my early years were marred by racial violence. In fact, my earliest memories are of racial violence and attacks against my family and against myself. I remember being 3 years old and being attacked by a grown adult on the estate where we lived in the London Borough of Lewisham. I remember being called a monkey and being told to go back where you come from, and I came from just round the corner. Certainly wasn't a monkey. I remember people trying to look if we had tails. I remember being chased by dogs that had been trained to chase young black children. Yes, you can train dogs to chase young black children. I remember sitting in my buggy and the top of my ice cream being whipped off as my mum was handed a vacuum pipe to fight a woman who was attacking her in the street. So much violence and so much racism I remember in my early childhood. That, to me, that was normal. I remember going to school, and as we were walking into school, there was a little plaque in the little garden area, and it said, "Today is the first day of the rest of your life." And I read that plaque every single day, and I remember that statement every single day, because we can't go through life living our yesterdays. We have to believe that there is better to come. So today is the first day of the rest of your life. I remember leaving school, primary school, my brother and my sister, and we had to go through a different gate to where most of the black children left through. And every day we had to literally run home because we were chased by these dogs that belonged to this racist family. And that was my every single day. At home, life wasn't so much easier. You talked about being the dark one. Well, I was the skinny one. Child number 5 of 6. And every single day there was teasing and bullying and attempts to break my bones. So home wasn't really like somewhere where it was comfortable for me, where I wanted to be, because of the constant teasing and the bullying and the constant being butt of other people's jokes. Family members, family friends, siblings' friends were all allowed to tease me about my size. And I remember begging my mother one day, I'm pleading with her, "Please tell them to stop, it hurts me." And she laughed and said, "I don't mean it, it's just a joke." But it really did hurt me. So I grew up not really having a safe space, but I was absolutely determined that I wanted to learn. So those of us who are black will remember, as children, we were given like 4 options of careers. You had to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, or an accountant. You had to choose from one of those. And as a child, all I ever wanted to do was to help people, so I chose to be a doctor. And I genuinely did love the sciences. I would spend my time on my own, pouring through books and just imagining my life as being a doctor. When I got to secondary school, I thought, right, this is it. I'm going to really get my head down. I'm going to learn. And got into classes, and the teachers would say, "You can't sit there." Can't sit where? "You can't sit at the front of the class. Go to the back of the class." Us as black children were not allowed to sit at the front of the class. They wouldn't give us textbooks. They wouldn't teach us. If you put your hand up, they weren't asking you to answer any questions. They were completely ignoring you. And I had one teacher in particular who would absolutely refuse to teach. And she made it her mission to make my life difficult. But it wasn't that I could go home and say to my parents, this is what's going on. Because we weren't encouraged to talk about that, about what was going on. So lots of the children, we internalised this agony that we were going through. And I managed to get through. I had one good teacher, my biology teacher, Mr. Yendros. I'll never forget him. He was really, really supportive. And a few weeks before my taking O-levels at the time, and another story about that, I wanted to do biology, chemistry and physics, because you had to in order to go to university and become a doctor. And I was already doing O-level maths and English, and it was a struggle to even get that far. And the headmistress came and found me one day, and she said to me, you're not going to do 3 sciences. She said, I'll be damned if you're going to be the first one to do 3 sciences. No one's ever done 3 sciences before. But I did go on to do 3 sciences. They had to change the whole timetable because that one biology teacher advocated for me. Allies, really, really important. So I'm there and I'm doing my 3 sciences, got my O-levels coming up, and this particular teacher, in this particular lesson, this English teacher, caused a big hubbub, and they physically dragged me out of class. And even to this day, I do not know why they physically dragged me out of my class. And they put me down to do GCSEs, and that destroyed my confidence. But I went on and I did my exams. I didn't do as well as I expected to or wanted to. I went on to college, and I was having a fantastic time. My other passion in life was playing football. And I absolutely loved playing football, and I used to play for Lewisham. So I used to go to a leisure centre. My parents didn't know that I was playing football, by the way. I was doing gymnastics, and then in order to play football, I would have to do the gymnastics class and then do the football class. And I was that good that I had a manager. Again, my parents didn't know. So I had a football manager, and I was 14, 15 years old. And there came a time when I was being scouted for Millwall Lionesses. So I don't know if anyone here is from London and knows anything about Millwall. Okay. And I remember that match like it was yesterday. I remember the scout sitting there in the front row watching, and I remember scoring a couple of goals and then the ball coming to me again, and I did a slide tackle and I kept the ball in play. And everyone jumped up and said, yeah! And my manager turned to the count and said, I told you she was good. And I thought, yes, I'm in. I'm going to live. And then when the match finished, he came over to me and he put his arm around my shoulder and he walked me away from everybody else. And he said, Palma, he said, you are fantastic. He said, you've got a brilliant future ahead of you. He said, but you know I can't take you to Millwall because you're black. And I thought, wow, look at that. It didn't matter how talented I was. He told me how talented I saw. How I should have been a shoo-in. But he was brazen enough to tell me again that I'm not going to advance because I was black. So in school and outside of school, my colour, my heritage, my race was getting in the way of what I wanted to do. Fast forward, I did go on to university. I got an unconditional offer to Imperial College to go and study science. I had no idea what an unconditional offer was. But not only did I get in to study science, I was among a very small percentage to study applied biology. And I went there and I thought, yeah, I've made it, I'm going to do this. The only other black girl on the course, so there were 2 of us out of 153, she became ill one day and I rushed her along to the hospital, and she was very, very not wanting to be in the hospital. And I said, clearly, Lorsh, I said, there's something wrong with you. Let's just see what the doctors say. And we stayed for hours and hours waiting in A&E. And then in the end, she said, I really just want to go home. And I said, yeah, come on, let's go. And we left. And a few weeks later, she died of a brain hemorrhage. And I left uni because I felt guilty. And for years, I held on to that guilt. And I remember going home to my parents and saying, this is what's happened to me. And nobody talked to me about what I was going through. It was You've disgraced us, you've left university, now what are you going to do? So my dad was a builder, and I had a passion for building. So my dad said, come and work with me. And I thought, this is fantastic. I'm working on building sites. Bearing in mind, I was working with my dad since I was a toddler, so I knew how to handle tools and I knew about building. And I'm there and I'm in my element and I'm thinking, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue working with my dad. And then some delivery came and they mistook me for a man, and my dad sent me packing. He said, this is no place for a woman. So now, not only has my race got in the way, my gender has got in the way as well. Anyway, I remember going out to a nightclub one evening. I was at King on the Rye. Anybody remember King on the Rye? Yeah, Peckham. And I met a man. And he said to me, you know, shall we go out? And I said, yeah, fine. And he said to me, we're going to go out on this Sunday, but I need to go to a meeting first. And I thought, okay, fine. So went to the meeting. It happened to be a political meeting. I thought, I'm really not into politics. This really isn't my thing. I'm a scientist. And so we got into the room and he said, oh, by the way, the women are meeting over there. And I thought, what a bloody cheat. Okay, fine. So I went and sat with the women. And the women were talking about women's issues, and I thought, this is really interesting. So I started getting involved in the meeting and started talking. And then we left the meeting, got in the car. He said, how was that meeting? I said, it was fantastic. I said, guess what? He said, what? I said, they elected me National Women's Officer. I said, what's an agenda? He said, what? And I said, yeah, I've got to organise a meeting, I've got to organise an agenda, and I haven't got a clue what they're talking about. And that was my start of getting involved in community. And I ended up being a founder member of the Anti-Racist Alliance. Anyone remember the Anti-Racist Alliance? In the late 90s, I set up the Stephen Lawrence family campaign. And I worked with the Lawrences and I worked with other families of race murder victims. And I really felt like I'd found my calling. I'm here helping people, making a difference. We changed the law, we outlawed racial harassment and violence, and that was a huge thing for us. But what nobody knew on the outside was I was also experiencing domestic violence and abuse. But it didn't have a language for me because I'd always been fighting my brothers and sisters. So here I was, giving my all and doing all of that. By the mid-90s, I found myself pregnant. I didn't want children, my partner did, got pregnant, being at home on my own, and went to sleep one day and I woke up 7 days later. I lost a whole week of my life. And when I woke up, I thought, well, where was he? I didn't hear or see from him. And then he called and he said he changed his mind and he wanted me to get rid of it now. And I'm thinking, whoa, hold on a minute. I've gone from being in a relationship and this man wanting this child to now being on my own, and I'm going to be a single parent. So I am a single parent. I've raised my daughter single-handedly since 1997. Thank you. And I am proud to be a single mum. But like many of you here, you know, poverty became an issue. I remember walking the streets until my neck was hurting. Why? Because I'm looking on the ground for a penny here and a 2p there. A 20p was like winning the lottery. Today, I've got 2 children, again, being a single parent. I live in a very nice house in a very nice part of Surrey. It is possible to change your life around. So you're all sitting there thinking, so what is Soul Purpose 360? In 2011, I'm seeing my older sister. She was the dark one, so she was teased about being the dark one. And I'm saying, Pauline, there's something wrong with you. You know, you're not looking very well. You're putting on a lot of weight, but it's not, I don't see, it's not normal weight. You look bloated. And again, it was, leave her alone, she's fine. That's what message I was getting from everybody. 2011 that was. By January 2012, my sister was rushed into hospital with heart failure. And I've gone to see her and I'm saying to her, sis, what's the matter? She said, oh, they said I'm low in potassium. I'll just eat some more bananas. I said, but what's caused it? Cutting a very long story short, my sister had Cushing's disease or Cushing's syndrome, which is a stress-related illness. Whilst I'd been going through what I'd been going through all my life and dealing with it in my own way, I thought my sister was having a absolute ball of a life. You know, she'd met her teenage sweetheart, they got married, she had 2 children, they had a house, they had everything. I said, sis, what's going on? They couldn't operate on her in January because her heart was so weak, and we actually expected to lose her at that point. 6 months later, they were able to operate. Her heart was a little bit stronger, and then they told her that she had inoperable tumours in her liver and pancreas. They told her that she had 5 years to live. It was during those conversations with my sister did I realise that actually I didn't really know her. We talked and I learnt about her, things that I would never have known if she wasn't dying. And I wondered how it could possibly be that she could be my sister, and I didn't know these things that was going on for her. Pauline getting ill, it was like somebody threw an Exocet missile in the family, and it imploded. Nobody knew how to deal with it. We didn't know how to talk about death. We didn't know how to talk about her illness. And on a number of occasions, simply by being present, I saved my sister's life because I listened to what she was saying. And one of the things that I realised about her was that she was lacking in confidence. She was lacking in self-love. She was lacking in self-respect. She didn't put herself first at all. She was all about her husband and her children, and her life really didn't matter. And in some respects, what was happening to her was inevitable. You know, we have to look after ourselves. We cannot pour from an empty cup. And not only was her cup empty, it was bone dry. And this is the reason why my sister was dying. I started organising an event for girls and women about all things confidence. I wanted to bring personal development and confidence to everybody so that everyone knew how important it was to think properly and to think effectively about yourself. The event was scheduled for the 16th of October 2018, and on the 19th of March 2018, Pauline passed away. And even though I expected her to die, and in some respects I kind of wanted her to die, she was in so much pain, I didn't expect to feel the way that I felt. And I cancelled the event, and I got on with my life, and I got on with my work. And then 15 months later, I sat at home thinking, damn, that would have been a really good event. What happened to me? By now, I'm already a personal performance coach, and I'm thinking, what are the things that I needed to learn about that? And I just sent some information out via LinkedIn, and information came back to me. And that afternoon, 4 women called me, and we talked about how they were hugely successful entrepreneurs and businesswomen, but they confided in me the personal challenges and obstacles they were facing on a day-to-day that no one knew about. They were grieving, there was domestic violence, there was divorce, there was homelessness. But these women were hugely successful in their lives. And I thought, well, actually, there's something in this. There's something in this about perseverance and determination and resilience. And I sat down and I thought, how can I create something like this, or something out of this situation, so that no other woman should have to die filled with so much regret? When my sister was told that she had 5 years left to live, she turned to me and she said, sis, I just signed up for an engineer's course. I said, really? I had no idea that my sister had any inkling of wanting to be an engineer. Soul Purpose 360 was created to help other women like my sister to overcome their personal obstacles and challenges, and to help them to bring that new thing back into good use in society. And it's about finding their soul purpose. And as a coach, what I always say is that when you coach someone, people start looking externally for things. But when you're coaching, you're talking to somebody, what they realise is the thing that they were looking for all along is inside of them. And that's what the 360 means. So I set up a coaching company, and there were 4 women I was coaching. And I thought, well, this is it. I can't really coach more than 4. And then another 4 joined, and I thought, okay, can manage 8. And then lockdown came. And very early in lockdown, my dad died. That's a whole other story. He didn't die of COVID, but he died because of COVID. And these 4 women held me together as I was grieving. But what began to happen was I was receiving telephone calls from other women around the country. I didn't know them. Can I join your group? I'm thinking, I don't have a group. That group that Fatima's in, oh, okay, you can join the group. And then it grew, 20, 30, 40, 50 women. Today we have over 1,500 women in the group. And these women are all over the world. There is such a need for an organisation where black women can come together and talk and share and express their feelings and be heard, because so many women haven't. So before I go, I don't know how long I've got left, I want to give you 2 examples. One woman, I was coaching her, she was in her mid-40s, experienced racism like I did from a very little toddler. She had never been able to hold down a relationship, never been able to hold down a job, had gone counselling on 2 occasions with white counsellors, and was led to believe that her problems were her fault. And so she carried the burden of racism all her life. Another member, her mother asked me to call her, and I called her and I said to her, you know, your mum's asked me to call you, and after a mouthful of abuse, she explained to me that she had multiple sclerosis and that she had no use to anybody. She's in a wheelchair, she suffers from depression. Last month, Tashia registered her social enterprise to help other women with multiple sclerosis. So she's gone from seeing this illness as a burden to seeing it as a gift where she can give back to society. So Purpose 360 has a campaign now with the help of Sound Delivery Media to really help me to clarify what it is that we're doing and how we can create change for black women. Definition Redefined is all about how we can reclaim our own narrative so that other people cannot put their perceptions on us. Next year, International Women's Day, we'll be calling a launch for a commission on black women and girls, because the negative narrative is literally killing us. When you hear that black women are 5 times more likely to die in childbirth, when you hear that black women have a 1/4 times more to have fibroids and to be offered a hysterectomy, when you look at the disproportionate representation of black women in the criminal justice system, in the mental health system, these statistics exist because of the perception that other people have of us. And what happens is that perception seeps into our psyche and begins to frame our perceptions of ourselves. And this is the reason why my sister didn't feel confident enough to seek help when she was ill and when she was suffering, because she just felt that this was her lot. Thank you so very, very much for allowing me time to share my story with you.